Happy afternoon, everyone. So, my topic for the day is sperm abnormalities and its clinical relevance. So, in sperm abnormalities, I'll be mainly speaking about the sperm morphology. Once I speak about the sperm morphology, I will just be correlating how important the sperm morphology is with the motility and the DNA fragmentation or the nuclear composition of the spermatozoa cells. So startingly, what we have to understand is many IVF centers have actually neglected the sperm morphology. Their only concern is about the oocyte quality, oocyte morphology. But fortunately, even the sperm morphology also plays a very significant role in the couples becoming fertile. So what exactly is sperm morphology? It refers to the size, shape and appearance of the man's sperm which when abnormal can decrease the fertility and make it more difficult to fertilize the woman's egg. Sperm can be misshaped based on the size of the head, having an extra head or having no head or tail. So these abnormalities, when we are speaking about sperm morphology, there are three different regions, the head region, the midpiece region and the tail regions. So the abnormalities can persist in any of the three regions. Either it can be in the head region, in the midpiece region or in the tail regions. So for a sperm sample to be considered to have the fertility potential, it only need 4% or more of the sperm population to be considered normal using strict morphology criteria. So here again in the further slides, I'll just be explaining about the different criteria which we are using to understand the sperm morphology. So according to the WHO criteria which we are following here, that is the 2010 fifth edition WHO criteria, the morphology of the spermatozoa cell should be 4 or more than 4. So if this criteria is applicable or if it is met, then we consider it as a normal spermatozoa cells and it has the ability to fertilize the egg. So next, so sperm morphology refers to the shape of the sperm, which includes the head, as I told, head region, midpiece, and the tail region. In the head region, we have something called as the DNA content, which is very important, which we actually differentiate using the nuclear color staining method or the Diffquick staining method, which we generally use in our center. The midpiece appearance and the structure of the tail. The head shape is important because it can affect the sperm's ability to penetrate the outer surface of a woman's egg to fertilize it. Sperm morphology is assessed during routine semen analysis that examines the sperm cells under microscope. The semen analysis will also examine the motility, that is the ability of the spermatozoa cells to move and the concentration of the sperm present in the ejaculate. So when we are doing any analysis, it is very important that we assess the morphology using different staining techniques so that it will help us better analyze what the abnormalities in the spermatozoa cells are, whether the abnormalities persist in the head region, the midpiece region or the tail region. Once we actually understand the sperm morphology, it will be helpful for the embryologist and the clinicians to understand what can be done further for the couples in order to achieve pregnancy. So every male, fertile or infertile, has varying percentage of abnormally shaped sperms. There are many factors that can lead to abnormally shaped sperms, including increased testicular temperature, exposure to toxic chemicals, infection, and genetic traits. The medical term for a man has a large number of abnormally shaped sperm is called as teratozospermia or teratospermia. So every man usually it is not like that the ejaculate whatever the ejaculation that we are collected from the male individual will have a completely normal sperms. But that is why we are following certain criteria where we have a distinct telling that this percentage of normal sperm should be present so that the male can be able to fertilize the egg. So there are certain factors also which will actually impact this which will impact the morphology of the sperms also. Certain factors which have been mentioned here is due to the increased testicular temperature or the exposure to the toxic, if the individual is exposed to the toxic chemicals, or if there are any infections, and in certain cases if there is any genetical traits also. So generally we term the general term according to the WHO used is teratozospermia if the morphology is less than 4%. So as I was telling you, I will that we are following some of the strict criteria. There are two different criteria that we follow for morphology. One is called the Kruger strict criteria, and one is the Tyberg's strict criteria. In Kruger's criteria, it is a bit more stricter when compared to the WHO strict criteria or the Tyberg's criteria. In Kruger's criteria, it is estimated that over 14% of the sperms have to be normal for high probability of fertility, and 4 to 14% should be the normal forms for fertility slightly will be decreased. If it is less than 3%, then the fertility is extremely impaired. So, but according to the WHO, if you compare this Kruger criteria, WHO has mentioned only that the lower reference value of morphology should be only 4%. If it is 4% or more, it is considered as normal. And if it is less than 4%, then only it is considered as teratozospermia. But in Tyberg's criteria, he claims that the high chances for probability of fertilization, the normal sperm should be greater than 14%. And next we have something called as Tyberg's strict criteria. In this, we again have different anomalies, like say what should be the head region, what is the dimension of the entire spermatozoa cell, what is the acrosomal spacing, what should be the acrosome and the nuclear component, what should be the composition of that, and what is the neck piece, how the neck piece should be, what is the measurement, and the tail region. So here the sperm morphology. In the sperm morphology, again, as I told, we have three different regions, that is the head region, mid piece, and the tail region. So in this, what are the dimensions that it should be? What is the normal form? If it is smooth and oval, the mid piece should be slender, axially attached. The tail region should be single, unbroken. So the measurement should be accordingly. There should be no cytoplasmic droplets. If it exceeds more than 50% in the head region or the mid piece, then it is considered abnormal. So then types of sperm morphology. So first we will look into the normal forms. So this staining method which we use is Defquick staining, where we have three different components. One is the fixative, one is the acidic and the basic dye. We have eosin and methyl blue. The eosin stains the cellular component, and the methyl blue stains the nuclear component of the spermatozoa cells. Here we are able to see that the normal sperm, which is having a oval shaped head, an intact midpiece, and an uncoiled single tail. Sperm with normal morphology are able to swim well and in straight line. So we can actually, if you highlight, I just would like to highlight this point that sperm having normal morphology can swim well and in straight line. So morphology is also having something to do with the motility of the spermatozoa cells. So if the spermatozoa cells are having abnormal morphology, then definitely the motility also will be impaired. Normal sperms will also contain healthy genetic information rather than having too many or too few chromosomes. Again, this point is also very important. So if the normal sperms are not there, if their morphology is not normal, if it is abnormal, then definitely the nuclear protein staining, whatever we are doing in CASA Advanced 3, the nuclear protein and the DFI, definitely there will be abnormalities, because there will be either too many chromosomes or too few chromosomes. Next, moving on, which are common in abnormally shaped sperms. So next, moving on, I would like to, so this was the normal sperm cells or the spermatozoa cells. Next, there are some abnormalities. So let us see few abnormalities. One is called, there are macrocephaly, refers to when the sperm has a giant head. These type of sperms often carry extra chromosome and have problem fertilizing the woman's egg. Macrocephalic sperms may be caused by homozygous mutation of the Aurora kinase C gene. This means that because this kind of sperm abnormality may be genetic, father may be able to pass the condition to their son. So this Aurora C kinase gene or AURKC gene is strongly present in the testes, especially in the testicular gland. So what this gene does is it mainly helps in cell division during spermatogenesis. So in this cell division, the nuclear component has to be distributed to the head region of the spermatozoa cells. If the composition of this, if there is any mutation in this gene, then there will be extra chromosomes added. So since it is also a homozygous mutation, for such patients, when we come across macrocephalic spermatozoa cells, since it is a genetic disorder which the father can pass on to his son, it is better we counsel the patient for a donor sample so that the next line of his offsprings will not carry forward this genetic disorder. Next comes microcephaly. Microcephaly is when sperm head is smaller than normal, also known as small head sperms. Small head sperms may have defective acrosomes. So, as we know that acrosomes are a pocket of enzymes in the sperm head used to enter the egg or reduce genetic material. So, this macrocephaly and microcephaly are actually coordinated or are mainly based on the mutation that is caused in the Aurora kinase C genes. If there is any mutations, then definitely the macrocephaly and microcephaly are seen in the ejacuated sample. Next comes pinhead. So quite often what we see in the ejaculate is pin-headed sperms or tapered head sperms, and one more is headless sperms or tailless sperms. So pinhead sperms, a variant of small head sperms is when the head appears as a pin with minimal or no parental DNA content. The presence of pinhead sperm may point out to a diabetic condition. So here what we have to know is there was a research in which a combination of whole genome sequencing was done. There is a particular sequence called as the Sanger sequence, which allows the identification, which once this whole genome sequencing was done of the human genes, when it was done, they came across this particular sequence called as the Sanger sequence. So in the Sanger sequence, they were able to identify biallelic mutation of SUN5 gene. So this SUN5 gene, which codes for the protein called as SUN, are transmembrane protein localized to the inner nuclear membrane that form link complex, LINC complex, which is called as linker of nucleoskeleton and cytoskeleton. So when there is a mutation in this particular gene, that is the SUN5 gene, then we have conditions like pinhead sperms or headless sperms, tailless sperms, and tapered head sperms. So we have to be very careful when we have such uh, samples, when we find it, when we do the staining, when we actually come across such ejaculated samples, we have to think about either to go for a donor sperm or counsel the patient what can be the next solution. So basically, and one more thing is the presence of pinhead sperms may point out to diabetic conditions also. So diabetic patients also might have pinhead sperms. Tapered head sperms again are sperms with cigar-shaped heads that may indicate the presence of varicocele in male or constant exposure of scrotum to high temperature location such as daily hot sauna. These tapered head sperms often contain abnormal chromatin or packaging of parental DNA genetic material. Abnormal number of sperm chromosomes called aneuploidy has been shown in tapered head sperms. So this is one thing. If there is recurrent pregnancy losses, and so we have actually started PGT and PGTM here. So once we are coming across there is a recurrent pregnancy losses and the couples are continuously having IVF cycles at various centers, but still they are having this something called as unexplained infertility, then definitely we can go to PGTM and PGTS so that we can understand whether the embryos, whether there is any aneuploidy in the embryos. Next, as I was explaining, so this head lace and the tail race uh, spermatozoa abnormalities is also because of this mutation in the SUN5 gene. So headless is nothing but the sperms have no heads at all and are called acephalic sperms or desiccated sperm syndrome. They do not have genetic material or chromosomes. This type of sperm may look like pinhead sperms, but upon close examination, one can see that there is no tiny sperm head, giving the sperm an appearance of a loose piece of string. Tailless sperms are called aquidate sperms, and these sperms are often seen during necrosis, the death of most or all the cells in an organism. Next comes thin narrow head sperms. It is an extreme variation of the tapered head sperms with pathologies seemingly different from the tapered head sperms. Thin head sperms are seldom identified and they may be due to broken DNA, varicose cells, or disrupted head formation. So all these abnormal sperms, if we actually go ahead with normal IUI or something, then there will be definitely chances of infertility because the DNA packaging itself is not proper. There are broken DNA strands so that the content of the male genetic factors will be disrupted. Next, one more important is the globosospermia, which we quite often come across in the ejaculated samples. Globosospermia or round-headed sperm condition is an abnormal sperm morphology that indicates either there is an absence of the acrosome or the sperm is missing inner parts of its head responsible for activating or turning on the egg and starting the fertilization process. So in this particular globosospermia, the acrosome region is completely absent. Okay, and so that there will be no activation by these spermatozoa cells for turning on the egg and starting the fertilization process itself. So a variation of this type of sperm is decondensing head sperm seen when the sperm prematurely starts to break down its nucleus and unraveling the DNA material fills the entire sperm head. So why this happened is we researchers have come across and they have found out that there is a gene called as the Sparta 16 gene, which is called as the spermatogenesis associated protein 16, previously known as NYD SP16 gene. So this particular Sparta gene, which is Sparta 16, is expressed in human testes, and the protein localizes to the Golgi apparatus and the proacrosomal vesicle, which fuses to form acrosome during the spermatogenesis. So if there is any mutation again in the Sparta 16 gene, then there will be definitely no formation of the acrosomal region at all. So this actually happens in this process of spermatogenesis. Next comes the nuclear vacuoles. So this is also one of the abnormalities seen in the head region of the spermatozoa cells. So the nuclear vacuole sperms have two or more large vacuoles, cyst-like bubbles, or multiple small vacuoles in the sperm head. These nuclear vacuoles are visible under high magnification microscopes. While some studies show that this type of sperm has low fertilization potential, other studies have shown no effect. Studies are still in progress, so the effect of this nuclear vacuole on fertilization or on fertility is a little debatable because there are some contradictory studies which claims that there are some effects of these vacuoles and some studies have shown no effects. So as they have already told, there are still studies that have to be carried forward to understand the significance of these nuclear vacuoles. And on the right side, you can see there are multiple parts. There are multiple parts abnormalities in the given particular spermatozoa cells. When the sperm has two or more heads, it is called as duplicate sperms. A condition linked to exposure to toxic chemicals, heavy metal like cesium, smoke, or high prolactin hormone in the male. Next comes the large swollen midpiece or the sperm neck may be related to defective mitochondria, the energy making part of the sperm cell. It may also be a sign that the centrioles, the guidance system for moving the chromosome stored at the sperm neck may be missing or broken. Next comes the coil-tail sperms have been exposed to either incorrect seminal fluid condition or the presence of bacteria. These sperms cannot swim as their tails are damaged. Heavy smoking has been linked to the presence of coiled tail sperms. So in such cases, we can send the bacterial sample. We can send the semen sample for bacterial culture. And so before even we do the semen analysis, it is mandatory that we understand the patient history, especially the male history. If he is a passive, if he's an active smoker, if he smokes a lot of cigarettes, or if he's alcoholic, or is working at his work is employed in a very high is employed at a factory or somewhere which is having a high temperature. If he's exposed every day to high temperature, if he's a driver where he has to sit for a very long time, and if he's exposed to a lot of radiations also, there will be it will also cause these abnormalities in the spermatozoa cells. So the history taking is very, very important to analyze what is his background, what is his employment background. And one more, finally, we have something called as the sperm cell. This is also one of the abnormalities. Sperm cells with short tail often have low or no motility and are called stump tail or dysplasia of fibrous sheet sperms. This tail defect happens during the late spermatogenesis or sperm cells formation in the testes. Some patients with DFS also have chronic respiratory disease associated with immotile cilia syndrome. Stump tail or DFS is an autosomal recessive genetic disease connected with abnormal genes that encode for proteins such as spermate centrin 1 protein. DFS has been linked to a higher percentage of sperm aneuploidies or abnormal chromosomes. So in our center, we are actually using something called as TZI and SDI. So these are some of the criteria which can even better analyze or understand the morphology of the spermatozoa cells. So we have something called as Teratozoospermia index and sperm deformative index. In Teratozoospermia index, we are actually analyzing the number of abnormalities which are present in one particular spermatozoa cell. So it will be the total number of abnormalities divided by the abnormal sperms analyzed. In sperm deformative index, we do it in a very different, or we do it more elaborately. That is the number of defects divided by the total number of spermatozoa cells, where we also consider not only the abnormal spermatozoa cells but also the normal spermatozoa cells as well. So any center which is paying more attention on the morphology of the spermatozoa cells, if they actually can incorporate such stricter methods of analyzing the morphology, say like TZI, SDI, or the Kruger's criteria or the Tribals criteria, it will actually help them understand what is the morphology of the spermatozoa cell, help them actually counsel the patients properly, why these repetitive infertility is there, or why there is a repetitive loss of pregnancy. If so, all this can be analyzed once we are actually following a stricter method of analyzing the spermatozoa cell for the spermatozoa morphology. So what actually, so why are we so bothered? Why actually we have to so much worry about the morphology of the spermatozoa cells? Will it actually have any impact on the fertility or the rate of fertility which we are seeing? Yes, definitely it does. While the most common cause of male infertility is low sperm count, the shape of the sperm also plays a very significant role. The morphology can affect fertility because sperm needs a certain shape to be able to penetrate the outer layer of the egg. Most men with abnormal sperm morphology are still able to father a child, but achieving pregnancy may take longer or require assistance from a fertility specialist. So here, this point, I would like to stress a little. So the only thing is, if you consider Kruger-Street criteria, the morphological criteria says that the normal form should be greater than 14%. Only if it is greater than 14%, then you can father a child easily. But it does not mean that if the morphology is less, you can't father a child, but it might prolong, it might take some more time. Or if you are able to come to a IVF clinic or meet some fertility specialist, then when we actually analyze the sample using different morphological analysis methods that we follow in our center, then we can actually find out what the abnormalities are, and then we can actually counsel the patient either for going for in vitro fertilization or intracytoplasmic injection. All this treatment can be planned further. So this morphological issues, so intrauterine insemination, in vitro fertilization may be an option for those with sperm morphology issues. Even if the morphology is very less, say you can't perform IUI or IVF with a given sample where the morphology is very bad, then there is another option where we have intracytoplasmic sperm injections can be used in addition to IVF to increase their chances of getting pregnant. Taking antioxidants in the male fertility supplements for 3 or more months has been shown by some researchers to improve abnormal sperm morphology. During IVF with ICSI, the lab will be able to choose a sperm that has the highest chance of success based on the morphology and the motility, and directly inject the sperm in the woman's egg. Once the sperm and the egg combine to make an embryo, it will be implanted into the woman's womb at the right stage of development. So here in our center, as we all know that we have advanced techniques in andrology where we are using magnetically activated cell sorting devices, and we are slowly doing trials on microfluidics as well. So this max actually is improving us when we have the teratozoospermia, when the morphology is less than say 2%, even if the DFI is more than 35%, we are using this technique in order to obtain normal spermatozoa cells, and we have actually had very good embryos when we have injected these sperms after post max procedure has been done. So, can sperm shape be corrected? Is a very big question. Yes, it can be corrected. A man body is always producing new sperms. As he ages, his sperm can become less healthy. For most men, sperm production will begin to drop after the age of 40. Changes changes to a man's diet and lifestyle and that can improve the health of future sperms include. So these are some of the suggestions that we can give them, like exercising regularly, avoiding self-medicated testosterone steroids, using heavy tobacco, drinking, or illegal drugs, reducing the amount of caffeine consumed, losing weight if needed, avoiding hot tub, sauna baths, decreasing stress, wearing loose cotton boxers or shorts, eating food or supplements rich in antioxidants every day. So one just a disclaimer is that it takes about 3 months to make and transit the new sperm. So any changes in the diet or lifestyle will require some time before improvement are seen. Due to the effect of aging, some physicians will recommend that a man freezes his sperms earlier in his life if we expect he will be waiting until the later in his life to have a child. So now it is all like people actually wait to settle in their life. They want to achieve a lot of things, only then they will plan to have a child. So in this process of achieving their dreams or reaching their goals, they tend to forget that they are aging slowly, and the healthy spermatozoa cells which will be produced will be actually, the chances will be actually reducing. So in such cases, if they approach the clinician or if they approach any IVF centers, we can actually recommend them to freeze the spermatozoa cells at their younger age. And once they plan to conceive a child, have a child of their own, then definitely we can use that frozen spermatozoa cells so that they can happily uh, get pregnant using their own spermatozoa cells, or rather, after a while, if they have not done so, they'll have, if the morphology and if the DNA fragmentation is less, or if they are unable to if there are in the ejaculate, if there are no spermatozoa cells, then we'll have to counsel the patients for a donor sample. So the sperm freezing and banking process works best only when the man has adequate, normal, healthy sperm. So this again is very important. You know, again here also the morphology plays a very significant role. So if there are adequate, healthy sperms only, then the freezing will be adequate, because even if you are freezing a sample which is having less morphology, then it is of no use, because as we have seen, there will be different normalities in the spermatozoa cells. Chromatin or the DNA packaging might be, there may be some defect in that. So all these things have to be considered when we are doing a proper semen analysis, where we are including morphology. So morphology plays a very significant role in the couple becoming pregnant. Similarly, the morphology also has a very significant role in the motility as well. So as we had seen in the normal sperm cells, if the sperm morphology is normal, then we have actually a very good motile spermatozoa cells. Similarly, if the sperm head region and the midpiece region and the tail region are normal, then the packaging of the DNA is also normal. So this reduces the chance. This might reduce the DNA fragmentation index. The nuclear protein also will be tightly bound. So it will be a very healthy sperm. So this is how we can correlate the sperm morphology with motility and the nuclear composition of the spermatozoa cell. So this was my presentation. Thank you.